I thought we'd bring in one of our great experts, one of the great advocates for the American taxpayer. They don't get often mentioned in this town. It's usually everybody else but the taxpayer. Brandon Arnold, Executive Vice President for the National Taxpayers Union, joins us right now. We're going to go through some important headlines. Brandon, great to have you back on the show.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, John. Thank you.
We have the IRS commissioner up on Capitol Hill, and I want to turn to him in a second because he's got his hand out for even more money. I'm sure Americans are excited about that. But I want to start with the ticking time bomb that every year Congress kicks down the road. I've been in this town 34 years, and we've kicked this can down the road every time, despite commissions and studies and promises. Social Security benefits are going to be cut starting in 2035, unless Congress finally acts. The trustees reported yesterday. Amazing that one of the most popular and most important sustenance programs in America just keeps getting ignored. But we'll spend lots of money helping Chinese battery makers get a foothold in the United States. Is this piper about to be paid whether we like it or not?
Yeah, I mean, something needs to be done. It is really, really frustrating to hear politicians saying, oh, this is not a problem for us. We can just ignore this. We want to protect Social Security, and then doing nothing about it. It requires a tremendous amount of courage, a tremendous amount of political will to actually roll up your sleeves and fix these programs. And we just haven't seen that level of commitment from any kind of politician, be it Republicans or Democrats alike. And as a result, as you note, we could be facing huge benefit cuts in less than 10 years. It could be a 20% cut to benefits that people are receiving right now in 20 years. And that's affecting not just current retirees, but of course, people in their late 50s right now have to be very, very concerned about the state of these programs and the red ink that it's just going to consume them if we don't do something about it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And you make a very good point. This is a bipartisan issue of neglect. It didn't matter who's in the White House, who's been in control of Congress. We've just been kicking it down. But if you're about my age right now, I'm 57, this is going to hit me right around my retirement age. These are the sort of things that I think people really are starting to just digest for the first time. Have you found anyone in Congress? Is there anyone that is the lone wolf crying or trying to make some gesture? And a second thing, I've heard a lot of people, when I go out and talk in the real world, you go out and you visit people and outside the Beltway, you hear people say, if they just cut 10% of the budget, I'd be thrilled. And if they took 5% of the savings and put it towards Social Security, Medicare to do the responsible thing, I'd even be happier. If people in the real world can figure things out, like spending cuts are the way we solve this, is there anyone in Washington picking up those signals?
Not a lot of people, I'll be honest with you. I wish I had happier news on that front. The chairman of the Budget Committee, Jody Arrington, a conservative from Texas, has been very good about reaching across the aisle because, honestly, this is not a problem that can be fixed on a partisan basis. You're not going to have the amount of durability to any policy reforms, even if you're able to sneak them across the finish line. If you don't have Democratic buy-in, they'll just be quickly undone. So Jody Arrington has been advocating a fiscal commission, which I think is a great idea. It's an imperfect idea, let's be honest, but all ideas are imperfect. But I think it's a really good idea for raising the profile of this issue. And obviously, it's not just entitlements that are in crisis right now. We have a spending problem across the board, but this is the biggest, the most acute one, and the one that will impact Americans in the most profound and direct way if it's not addressed, as we're talking about 9, 10, 12 years from now. Huge cuts to Social Security, huge cuts to Medicare. That will really cripple our seniors if we don't address it. So Jody Arrington's been talking about this fiscal commission. Of course, whenever you talk about third rail programs like Social Security, as soon as you pop your head up out of that foxhole, you start drawing fire from left and the right. And that has certainly happened to him and other folks, including Speaker Johnson, who has been very open to this type of conversation. So we need to support those folks. We need to support them, even if we have concerns about the fiscal commission, even if we're not 100% there. People that are willing to actually put courageous ideas on the table need to be supported. We can modify those as we go, but we need to support folks like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The demagoguery on this issue is one of the reasons why it's always kicked down the time. People just get tired of getting demagogued on it because the first thing they say, they're going to cut your Social Security benefits. The answer is no, we're just trying to fix the fund. And there's a lot of ways to fix it. But the demagoguery has, in all the years I've been here, I've watched more demagoguery on this issue than almost anything else. And it's really to the disservice of the American people who trust these programs, want these programs, and would prefer these be right-sided more than some of the government spending we do today. Danny Werfel, always a colorful guy, goes up to Capitol Hill today. He's got his hand out. Yes, the IRS wants more money, more staff, more people to go after Americans. I've heard more and more everyday Americans complain to me like, I owe a few $1,000s and they're all over me now, pushing me. There seems to be a growing resentment of the IRS at sort of the really most basic customer level, which is the everyday American taxpayer. Will word that they want more money to do more of this sit well with the American people?
Yeah, I sure hope not. I mean, they're asking for not just a little bit of money here. We just gave them, we just gave them $80 billion. And I was opposed to that, obviously, as I know you are, in the Inflation Reduction Act. And Republicans, to their great credit, were able to trim back a little bit of that, more than a little, $20 billion, which is great. And that was taken from the enforcement budget, which is the appropriate thing to do. But now Danny Warfel is back before Congress today asking for $100 billion plus up to the IRS budget, and that's over 10 years. But they have not demonstrated the ability to use those funds responsibly. One of the pots of money that actually do support the IRS getting is funds to improve customer service, to treat taxpayers in a fair manner, to answer the phones when people have questions, to modernize their system, because right now they're using IT that is literally decades old. So they need to modernize that. We need a modern IRS that's responsive to taxpayer inquiries so we don't make mistakes on our taxes and we don't have to face the potential audits down the road. But they take this money and they do with it what they choose, and that is including creating a whole tax filing system that was not authorized by Congress.
I want to dig into that.
Yeah.
That's a big one, isn't it? I mean, this was the thing. Yeah, Inflation Reduction Act, they said, study it, right? Instead of studying it, then they just go build it without any real understanding of cost or whether we even needed it, right? There's a question of whether we need it.
Yes, there's a huge question because there's a lot of private tools out there, and the majority of people can access them on a free basis. There's a public-private partnership called Free File that people can take advantage of. So Congress said, go out and study this. Tell us how much it costs. Tell us if people want this or not. They did a survey whether people wanted it or not. They didn't fully assess the cost, and then they went ahead and built it. A complete contradiction to what the law said. So that's the problem. If you don't tell IRS to do something precisely, exactly, they're just going to take that money and do whatever the heck they want with it. And that was the case here. They've launched this new system that they say is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think there are a lot of existing programs. There's literally a dozen or so programs out there that people can use. There's taxpayer services. You can go to a physical office, bring all of your paperwork in, have somebody help you with your taxes. So it's just incredibly frustrating to see them act in contrast with what the law said when we have really important needs at the IRS. Like I said, modernizing our system, improving the customer service experience over there. And they're burning through that money and already saying that they need more. It's just a complete and total mess.
They just have a long record, right? I mean, there's computer monetizations that went awry. The people who are charged with making sure we're good stewards of our tax dollars that we pay them often aren't good stewards of using our tax dollars. Is there an appetite, you think, particularly if there was a wave election, to possibly have a significant reform of the FBA, not a small, or of the IRS, not a small reform, but a big one, something that would be transformative to the customer service element of this, to the ability to manage their own money. It's got to be I know it's one of the least popular agencies in America for all the reasons that are obvious, but customer service and being bad stewards of funds should be something that's fixable.
I think people are waking up to that problem, John. So I do think there's an increasing appetite for doing something of that variety. Thus far, the Republican approach, the IRS has, done countless horrible things out there. They've leaked private taxpayer information. They've had private information that sat on their website for literally months, and they wouldn't take it down despite people complaining about it. Just the list goes on and on. Lois Lerner, we know the stories. The Republican response has been, well, let's cut their budget. Let's cut their budget to punish them. And while I agree with that, I think we need a lot more than just cutting their budget. We need that comprehensive type of reform. We need to go in there and make sure the IRS is doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is to help people file their taxes, protect private information, when necessary, conduct audits, but not go on wild goose chases as they've done time and time again. We need to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and not just giving them more money or simply just cutting their budget without a real mind for what the impact of that will be. I think we're working on that at National Taxpayers Union. As you'll be shocked to hear, we're trying to find the ways to reform the IRS to make it work for the American people instead of to be used as an ideological cudgel or, to go off again on these wild goose chases that don't benefit anybody.
It's so amazing. And there's so many people that feel this way. And every time something else adds to the feeling, adds to the body of evidence, there's a collective body of inaction in Washington, which has to really affect people. You guys do so much extraordinary work every day. And for people who want to stay in touch with the studies, the solutions, because you're developing solutions, not just identifying problems, what's the best way to stay in touch with all the great work you're doing?
Well, obviously, our website, NTU.org, please check that out. We're on all of the social media out there, Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, Facebook. We put a lot of videos out. This will hopefully be up on our YouTube page soon, so you subscribe to that, like all of the videos and audio that you see there. We'd love to be in touch with your listeners. We love the work that you do as well, John, and we'd be happy to be in touch to answer any questions that folks have and do whatever we can to advance this important cause.
When I first came to town a very long time ago, I first met Pete Sepp early in my career, and the work that NTU has done that I've been able to take advantage of as a reporter because it's factual, it's common sense, it's rooted in reality as opposed to sometimes the political shenanigans that go on, has been really beneficial. It's such a remarkable organization. And of course, Brandon, you're a big part of that. That's why we're so lucky to get you on all of our shows so often. Thanks for joining us today. Good stuff today.
It is my pleasure.